And we are back, this time taking a break from Fire and Blood to discuss a new show from HBO, Raised by Wolves. It's a series about two androids trying to raise children on a new planet after Earth is devastated by a religious war between atheists and fanatics. Preston, you wanted to discuss this.
Yeah, the show's produced by Ridley Scott. First two episodes were directed by him, and a lot of the themes and the artwork and everything is very, Alien Prometheus. It was an interesting show, so I wanted to talk about it. And Carmine had happened to have watched it as well, and so I was like,
Which is rare for me, because as everybody knows, I'm very, slow on watching new stuff that came out. But I gotta say, this entire show feels as though Ridley Scott was spitballing ideas for Prometheus and the Alien prequel trilogy, and he threw some of those ideas out. But then for this show, he went back into that garbage bin, took them out, and put them in this show. That's what this feels like.
It does. I mean, some of them are so spot on similar, and you're like, oh, geez. And just the alien designs of everything and stuff like that. But I mean, right off the bat with Prometheus, there's a how he views religion and the show's metaphor for religion and how it, that goes is a big part of it. Obviously the plot of Prometheus is a bunch of people land on a planet, but there's this, the themes are God creates his Adam and Eve, his humans, right? And so in the show, in the movie, God is replaced by the engineers, but then there's this need to murder your God in order to become a creator yourself. And so as man pursues science, they kill God in order to make their own creations. And this goes into Alien Covenant. He wants to kill his creators so he can then be a creator. That's the theme they're going for. It's kind of weird because, obviously people that pursue science who are atheists wouldn't think they're killing any creator. They're just discovering the world through science. And they don't necessarily have this huge burning desire to be creators. I don't know, the people that are in biology that study something like cloning, it's not like they're sitting around being like, I want to be God. I want to be a creator. But this is how he's viewing it and how he's framing it. And then Raised by Wolves, it's kind of, they're doing something weird where the creators are dead and yet the messages continue on past their programming. And he's comparing that to religion where, okay, the people that wrote the Bible and whatever purpose the Bible had, now in modern society, we're kind of past that. And it's the same with these androids who the people that created these androids are gone. The atheists are gone and dead. And they're continuing on with their mission, even though it doesn't apply anymore. But that's, in a nutshell, these kind of these Ridley Scott themes that are there.
I feel as though even though Ridley Scott is a part of it, and some of these things are definitely his idea, after a couple of episodes, it kind of takes off and does its own thing. You can tell Ridley Scott's fingerprints are on this, but at the same time, the showrunner, whose name escapes me, you can tell that he came in here at the very, midway through and just did his own thing, which I guess you could argue is good or bad.
I do feel that it ends, as it progresses towards the ending, it becomes a completely and utterly different show than how it started.
But it also doesn't make a lot of sense because when Ridley Scott did Prometheus, there were more questions than answers. And then when we got Alien Covenant, the sequel to Prometheus, once again, kind of more questions than answers, but not as much as Prometheus.
Because I think Ridley Scott was more interested in the thematic parallels than he was to actually creating a story that was comprehensive.
That's fair. That's fair. But for the plebs like me, it kind of bothers me. I want answers.
He wanted that whole story about God and creator and that thing, which I think, I even think it's kind of stupid. But for a viewer, they're like, but the story doesn't make sense. Why are people taking off their helmets? This just doesn't make any sense. Why is a scientist who studies biology reaching out for an animal, an alien, with his hand? It's stupid, But
I would say I forgot the guy's first name, but Fassbender, the actor who plays David the android in the Prometheus trilogy, love his portrayal Love his acting as David the android. You
Isn't there,
come
aren't there only
to
two? Aren't there only two movies in the?
Hmm?
There's just Prometheus and Alien Covenant, right? You said
Yeah,
trilogy. I was
it's
like,
essentially the Alien prequel trilogy because a third movie was announced and they're like in the
oh
process of
really?
yeah.
Oh
So
no.
and he is set to reprise his role as Michael Fassbender as David the android. But I will say I like his performance as an android more so than I like. It's more believable that he's an android more so than father and mother as an android because they don't really act like androids as much.
Yeah, I mean it's weird because father is incredibly likable, and
Oh, I love
mother,
him.
yeah, father's incredibly likable, and mother is not likable at all. Which actually is a big problem for me near the end of the season. Like she's done all of these horrible things. I mean, are we in spoiler territory? Are we assuming that
I
everybody's watched the show? Because right now this must be gibberish for anyone who's not seen this.
Well, for spoiler warnings, of course, but Raised by Wolves, for those of you who don't want to go in too far deep and want to end the video here, it's on HBO Max. I'm sure there are other ways to get the show, but it's definitely worth checking out. And before you go into
Oh
spoiler
yeah.
territory,
I mean, I would say before we go into spoiler territory, I want to say that, like the show's got problems. It's got serious pacing problems. Serious
yes.
pacing problems. But I will say, I was really looking forward to the next episode because I needed to find out what was happening, and the ideas and creativity on the show was just phenomenal. And I needed to find out what was going to happen. It reeled me in, even though it was very slow. But and it's some great creative ideas. It's fantastic, fantastic show, fantastic sci-fi.
It's weird
Yeah,
sci-fi, and I'm glad HBO made the decision to release 3 episodes and eventually 2 episodes a week because lately there has been a weird discussion among streaming services on how to really proceed with things. Do we release everything the same day like Netflix, or do
yeah,
we release it, week after week like Disney Plus and Amazon is doing now with The Boys? I think this is a happy medium, and I'm so
Mhm.
glad HBO did that because had I had to fucking wait week after week after week, I probably would have given up on the show because the first couple episodes, the pacing is bad. I always
Yeah.
stress everyone should give every new show the 3 episode test. This show needs the 6 episode test. That's you really need to stick with it to really just kind of get engrossed in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'm sorry. Let's dive into spoiler territory.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the show is about these two androids that land on the planet, and then they're raising 6 human beings from embryos, from frozen embryos, as atheists because
Hmm.
Earth has been destroyed from a massive war between zealots and atheists. And so they think that Earth is gone, and so they just want to get away and start a new society. Adam and Eve want to start a new society without God, with these 6 children. 5 children die from various causes, and so they're left with one child, who is, of course, like humanity is doomed because you can't have humanity go on with only one child. But then the zealots arrive. An interesting rub, right? Like the only way for Campion, the boy, to continue on and continue on the human race is, to be peacefully reunited with the humans from the zealots. But like Mother's programming refuses to allow him to ever be raised religiously. And so, she has a secret program. It turns out she's super powerful, and she ends up killing all of the zealots except for a handful. That she just murders thousands of people, including children. She saves 5 children to restart her experiment. So now they're back up to 6 in their colony. And then a few random zealots, I want to say it's somewhere like 30. It's tough to tell how many zealots are left, but I want to
About
say like,
10, like 20 or 30 about that.
yeah, 20 or 30 zealots are left. And, the zealots realize that they need to get the children back. And within the zealots are 2 imposter atheists. who killed some zealots, took on their identities, and are now posing as zealots, even though they're atheists. And it just so happens coincidentally, and this is a lot of contrivance here, that one of the children that was stolen was of the zealots. I mean the hidden atheist's child, even though it's not their real child, but because they killed the real parents and took on their identities, but they've still bonded with this other child, and so now they feel like they need to get the children back.
Preston, you hear that?
Yeah, crickets.
That's the sound of people clicking out of this video, because people who have never. We always get like random people who like, if we do like a show, we'll always get like random people who have never seen that show, and they're okay with that. But now like this is the cutting off point where everybody's like, huh? You gotta watch the show. It really gets a little convoluted, but it starts to settle in. So,
and then it becomes so George R.R. Martin at the end.
Oh God.
Oh God. Because I mean, if we want to jump to the ending, like there's all of these
the
mysteries.
ending for a little bit.
Save the ending for a little bit, but there's so many mysteries. Like over the course of this 10 episodes, it's just one mystery over the other. Like you're just like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Where's that coming from? Like why? Like all of a sudden they start seeing ghosts of the dead children, and then
you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the movie Event Horizon, but like combined with Prometheus. That's really what it reminded me of, because in Event Horizon, for those of you who aren't aware, it's a Sam Neill film. Essentially, he invents like the ability for a ship's ability to go into like light speed or whatever, and the ship he invented that can go into light speeds into another dimension that happens to be hell, and then it comes back into our dimension, and it's just a haunted ship story, basically. And this is kind of what the show felt like after a couple of episodes, because something on that planet is invading people's minds, even the androids' minds, and making them see things and hear things.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing, is that at first you're convinced that only humans, they can go crazy, but then the androids are seeing ghosts. And you're like, how can androids see ghosts? And then why is this android going off into this pod and having hallucinations of having sex with her creator? And then, where do these strange pits that are all over, like why do they go to the center of the earth? And who is this strange cloaked man who is stalking the zealots? And there's and then why are these people receiving visions from God? And you're like, oh my God, like all of these things need to be explained. And then when Mother gets pregnant, and you're like, what? How is an android pregnant? This makes no sense. They would answer one mystery, and they would have 10 new mysteries every episode. Where you're like, holy shit.
I'm glad you said that, because that's actually one of the main reasons I kept coming back, because at one point I was wondering if J.J. Abrams was somehow involved in this. This feels like a J.J. Abrams thing, because he loves to set up these mysteries and never answer them. And that fucking annoys me, but it's great.
I mean, I would say 50% of the mysteries are solved at the end of the series quickly, but...
50? I don't even know about that. I think that's generous.
I may be generous, but I think that most of them can be. I mean, we still have some mysteries, like where does the dodecahedron temples come from? Who is the cloaked man's people? Like we don't really know.
They're devolved humans.
Devolved humans, and I've read some good theories on like what it all means. But it's a lot of chaos. It's a lot of chaos up until the end. I think the end answers a lot of it. It's kind of a Ford planned it all kind of ending.
Ford from Westworld?
Yeah. Where like anything chaotic that doesn't make sense, it's all part of Ford's plan. Okay.
I got so pissed in the penultimate episode where Mother touches these weird metallic,
the playing cards,
the playing cards, and she gets a vision, and you see like these cloaked people, and there's like this weird head on top of this like cube, and the head kind of looked like the head of the space jockey from the original Alien.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed that.
But he was also very similar to the creatures that were attacking the village, but not quite, because those creatures are also quite very space jockey,
Mm-hmm. And then the fucking kid Paul burns them. Like, oh, you bitch! I wanted to know. I wanted to know.
So much happens. Even though it seems really slow, I'm like, then you go back and you're like, so much happens. Like, I guess there's still, a lot of mysteries. Like why was father saved and things like that. But
Right. The number one thing I like that they set up is, and this is actually a cool mystery, kind of coming off from like A Song of Ice and Fire, is what we like about A Song of Ice and Fire, the prophecy of the orphan boy or the orphan child who will lead humanity to a new like golden
right.
age or whatever. And that literally could be every single character in this show.
Because they're all orphans, right?
They're all orphans. The ridiculousness.
It's the whole thing. I mean, this is like Cersei with the second son. You're like, second son. You're like, everybody's a fucking second son. Like, like, Jesus Christ.
You mean the Valonqar?
Yeah, the Valonqar. Little brother. You're like, everybody's a fucking little brother. Like, half of male siblings are little brothers. So.
This fucking show, the show bothers me, and it goes into like random ridiculousness all the time. One example is, you mentioned Mother, the android. She's a fucking. Yeah. Actually, we don't really know what Mother is, because we have androids, and then we have whatever she is. She's a necromancer.
Reprogrammed necromancer unit. And I mean, there's a certain irony to it that she's the creation, like her and the main atheist guy. There's a parallel structure, because like she's a creation of the zealots, but she's been commandeered by the atheists. And then on the other side, you have an atheist who's been commandeered by the religious movement, and they're going opposed to each other, and I mean, so there's some of that going on. But my one huge problem with the show, besides pacing, is that she is a mass murderer. She murdered thousands of people, including children.
And after a while, everyone just kind of lets that go.
Yeah, everyone lets it go. Like, quite quickly, the children are like, Mother, Mother! They're all excited. She killed all of your friends. Like, all of your friends are dead because of her. She murdered them.
And your family members, too.
And your family members, your parents, your friends are all dead because of her.
And by the last two episodes... But by the last 2 or 3 episodes, everyone's like, Mother, oh my God, we have to help her. Somehow she's pregnant. That's not creepy and crazy at all.
Baby. Yeah. They explain why Mary would want to save the baby, because Mary has like complexes because she's infertile and stuff like that, and always wanted to have a kid and stuff like that. So they kind of explain why Mary would be on board. But no, the children should not be on board. Like, there's no reason, because Mother is going around acting psychotic the entire time, and she's a murderer. She's a genocidal murderer. Like, she tried to kill all of the zealots, including children, and then they're just like, Mother. That pissed me off.
They kind of hint that the necromancers might not be an original idea thought out by humans on Earth. For some reason.
They're talking about the Mithras texts,
right? And
the Mithras don't even understand their own science anymore.
Exactly, and somehow I feel as though Soul and the whole Mithraic religion might have started on this planet. I get this idea, the Kepler 22b, where the whole show takes place. I get the feeling that it might have started there, and somehow it was sent to Earth, or maybe sent to multiple planets.
So now we're getting into like heavy give away the ending spoilers here. So this is what I think. So first off, the ending is very George R.R. Martin, where you find out that every weird thing that's been going on the planet is actually the prophecies and visions that people have been seeing are all tricks. They're all nefarious tricks in order to get the characters to incubate a flying snake. Right?
Yeah.
And which is very, and 7 Times Never Kill Man, Sand Kings. It's so George R. Martin. I think Ice and Fire is going to end this way, like that. All of the visions, they're not from a caring God. They're from a nefarious agents who are tricking people. George R. Martin has written a dozen stories like that, And that's how this one ends. Now, if you take it a step further, I read a very cool theory, which I think is correct, that the devolved characters on the planet, so there's no such thing as devolution or de-evolution. Everything is natural selection, right? So the idea is that if previously human beings needed to be tricked in order to produce snake monsters, all of the intelligent human beings would die, and humanity would get dumber and dumber until they could no longer be taken over by the nefarious force. Like the nefarious force needed intelligent beings. And so they devolved to be unintelligent as a survival mechanism. And I was like, oh, that does make sense.
That's not bad. I can see that.
Yeah. But then, like, say you're that, then you take it a step further and you say, okay, well, what about this force? Like, shouldn't the force, like, how is it going to survive if everybody's dumb? Well, maybe it could send something to Earth to convince people to come here and then bring more intelligent beings so that it could reproduce again. So when you say, like, oh, in the Mithras texts, it may be that the being sent those nefarious visions and ideas to the Mithras on Earth. They built the necromancers. The necromancers ended up killing Earth, causing them to come to Kepler 22b so that they could be impregnated.
Yeah. I can actually, I believe that. I can find that. I can see that
Ford
happening.
planned it all. Ford planned it all.
But what the fuck are these snakes? And not to mention, what was that? God, I don't even know what to call that shape in the desert of that giant structure. What is that shape called?
I would call it a dodecahedron. So I only learned this word from Dungeons and Dragons, but a 12-sided die where you have a pentagon, but it's 12 sides is a dodecahedron. It means 12 sides.
Dodecahedron. Whatever the hell that is. I mean, fuck. So many, like, intricate mysteries, and it's just they're woven in here and they barely get answered, and you're like, I want to know.
Right. The other thing is if you're a nefarious powerful force like that wants to be birthed as a snake, how are you doing it before your own birth? What is the actual thing sending the visions now before the snake was born?
That's what I want to know. Like, what is actually doing this? Like, and how is it able to infect? At first, I thought it just infected Mother, but apparently Father saw visions as well?
Yeah, Father saw visions.
So it doesn't just extend to... Because if the necromancer blueprints came from, like, whatever's doing this, sent to Earth, it shouldn't be able to affect the service models, unless the service models are also somehow spin-offs of the necromancers, just more docile and more...
I mean, that's the thing, is this thing is so powerful, it can infect both silicon and carbon-based life forms. There's a few things that aren't answered. Like we don't know why the cloaked man was trying to kill Mother, or who his people are. But I mean, maybe he saw the threat, but then like, who are his people? How are they different from the the dumber creatures that were attacking the village? Are they just a different offshoot species of devolved humans? He's apparently smart enough to know that she was incubating, the devil inside her.
For me, the biggest question is, how the fuck is that lander gonna go right through the center of the Earth into the core,
through the hot magma,
and not be destroyed? What?
Right, just like pressure wise, like even the sense that lava isn't. Okay, like one big thing in movies is lava is liquid, but if you were to, like, you can't jump into lava like Gollum, okay? Like, even if it weren't gonna instantly, like, combust you as you got close to it, it's really dense. So you go smack right on the surface. Mm-hmm. You don't splash into lava like Gollum. So that's just silly. So one, the lander can't, like, how is it going splush all the way through? But then, like, the gravitational pressure at the center of the Earth, like, would be, like, massive, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
how did that thing survive? How did the androids survive themselves, unless the snake somehow telepathically made like a force field. It was that powerful, but okay. Like it's that's where the ending for me dropped the ball a little bit, just a tad bit.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. It was a little, ex machina.
What annoys me the most is I fucking hated that ending. It was so annoying, but I want to know what happens next. I want to know. I want to know.
I mean, clearly, you got parallels to Revelation, of birth of the Antichrist, and all these kind of things. Like, she thought she was birthing some savior, and instead she's birthing the Antichrist. And it's the literal devil, Adam and Eve, and the snake, and now Eden is destroyed or whatever. But it's
At the very end, we get the atheists. They've arrived.
right.
Somehow they've commandeered. The one thing I want to say about the atheists and the Mithraic. By the way, I don't know if you caught this in one of the earlier episodes when Mary and Caleb. I'm gonna call Caleb Ragnar because the actor played Ragnar Lothbrok in the show Vikings, and
Yeah,
he's
and
basically
I get confused actually. What's their original names versus their cover names,
Caleb
right?
is their original name, but like
Okay.
I forgot the motherfucker's like fake whatever. I'm calling him Ragnar. So Ragnar at one point gets injured and he goes back to the camp and Mary grabs him and she goes, "Oh Jesus Christ, what happened?" And I'm like, "Oh Jesus Christ." So Christianity is a thing or was a thing and it got taken over by the Mithraic. Interesting. That's a little thing I noticed because she mentions Jesus Christ and she says
Yeah.
it in that way. So I don't know if that's an error because I don't know if Christianity and Catholicism and Judaism and Islam was ever a thing in this version of Earth. But
Right. I
even if they
mean,
were,
yeah.
Mithraic have taken it over. Sol has dominated everybody.
Right. I mean, the Mithraic. There was an original religion called Mithraism during Roman times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a cult that many in the military were part of, and it just never really took off or succeeded outside of this military cult.
That makes
But
sense because the one the one girl kept like saying she had Romulus's tooth or something.
yeah, 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 a lot of connections to that. So this might be like an alternate world where Mithraism becomes the dominant religion on Earth rather than Christianity and Islam, or Judaism, Christianity, Islam being the I understand there's still a lot of Hindus in the world, but the dominant religions, most people on Earth identify with being either Christian or Muslim. So
But the one thing I notice about the atheists is that they remind me a lot of how Russians are usually portrayed back like 50 years ago. Like they seem very gruff. Like have you ever seen the movie? I think it was Enemy at the Gates, where it's like it takes place. I believe as a Russian point of view during World War II, and how the Russians are all like gruff and like "Arr," and the
mm,
commissar will kill you if you run away from the battle. Like they'll kill their own soldiers. The atheists are very rough and tough, and they don't. It seems like they don't use technology that often, whereas the religious people love to use it. They have the jets
yeah,
and
yeah.
the ship and the robots, which is kind of weird and a bit of a turn because I mean, not to be an asshole, but in our world, oftentimes a lot of religious people love not to accept science, whereas the
Right,
atheists
right.
like to do so.
I mean, I think the Mithrists, what they accept is like the science that's in their scriptures, which is interesting. That they don't even understand. But yeah, there's this very Luddite idea that technology is the work of the devil, and that we need to go back to like simpler times, simpler, more biblical times. I
Hmm.
mean,
But the Mithraic are like the exact opposite. Maybe that's just a little thing from their religion versus like Christianity. Because in our world, a lot of people don't like to believe in science, and a lot of those people are religious. Just something I've noticed. Um,
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, religion relies on faith, and faith is the exact opposite of science, right? Like, science is looking for evidence and proof, and faith by definition is jumping to a conclusion without evidence or proof. I mean, that's the whole thing. And so, yeah, I think the science in general does have a inherent conflict with faith.
I'm gonna get flack for this. People are gonna ask me if I'm the fashion police, but you know what? Fuck it. I am the fashion police. I hate their haircuts. Their haircuts are absolutely. I hate. Oh my god. Oh my god. I hate their haircuts.
So this is a funny thing. So again, like there's all these Rome callbacks, right? With Mithraists, was this military cult during the Roman Empire. They the most common haircut, like probably ever, because of its practicality, was the mullet. And there's a reason, if you think about like the mullet and why, like they show these movies like what's the one with Brad Pitt and where he plays Achilles? Troy. He has got these long hair and all that. No, in real life, those military guys back then, they all had mullets. And there's a reason you have a mullet, is because if you're fighting and you're marching and you're doing things that military people do, one, you don't want hair in your face. So you're going to cut your hair in the front, and it's going to be bangs. But at the same time, you're marching. And you're marching all day in the sun, so you don't want sunburn. So it's going to be long in the back. And so the mullet is actually like the military haircut of ancient times. And so they actually get that kind of right. I mean, the shaved sides is a little weird, but yeah, the fact that he's got a weird mullet, yeah, no, that's actually really funny, you know, because you hardly ever see that in popular culture.
Like I actually thought for a minute there it was like like a futuristic hairstyle. Right, because in some futuristic shows, like they'll have like this weird slang. Well, it's just the slang of the future. It makes sense, you know.
And maybe they are doing that with the shaved sides. Like, there's no reason for your sides to be shaved.
Exactly.
You'd still want your ears to be covered to also not be sunburned. And but you want a long mullet in the back to cover your neck. You want to be able to cover your ears, but you want the bangs cut so it's not in your face, so that you can see and you can fight.
So yeah, I am the fashion police. Fuck you. I hate those haircuts. Anyways,
no, years ago, the only reason I learned about this is that years ago, Iran announced that the mullet was going to be illegal because they thought it was like foreign influence. And I read this long article about how the mullet is the most universal utilitarian haircut of all societies for this reason. I was like, oh my God, like all societies have armies, and the mullet was the most practical combat haircut.
You know what? This also makes sense that you would know this because you're a huge Roman Empire guy, and isn't the Roman Empire whole thing with Ramus and Remus, weren't they raised by wolves themselves?
Yes, that's the idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, this show once again, I hate this show, but I want to know what happens next.
But it is a great double meaning, because it's raised by wolves with the Roman aspect, but also we think of wolf in sheep's clothing and things like that, and stuff like that. And so,
One thing I hated about this show was random things seem to happen that make no fucking sense. For example, when Mother,
like the temple glowing and incinerating the other leaders, so that Caleb Marcus can become the new leader.
It has to be that fucking what'd you call it? Dictatomy? What is it?
Dodecahedron.
Say it again.
Dodecahedron.
Dodecahedron. That dodecahedron. I'm gonna type this.
Dec means 10, like decade, and then do before it is adding another 2. So dodec is the prefix for dozen.
Yeah, I see it. Dodecahedron. I got it. I'll just go back to this. What I said. That I feel like that thing is the cause of it all. But the stupidest thing in the show so far was eventually, as they're continuing on and traversing the planet and whatnot, they encounter a prisoner who was told by Sol to
Yeah.
rape women as they're asleep in the cryosleep. And they eventually find this guy. He survived Mother's assault on the Ark, and he has this
Yeah.
like weird thing around his fucking head. And eventually, Mother uses him to transfer blood from his body to her body to feed this
Right.
fetus that she has. And eventually, for some reason, he's able to reverse the blood flow of like this
Yeah.
fucking tube that's going into both of them. He's able to reverse the blood flow from her body to his body, and somehow he gains super strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? What is
Well,
happening?
first of all, like the rapist plot line, I didn't like it, but I suppose they tried to make sense of it at the end. Because in the beginning, I'm just like, wait a minute. Of all of the girls, of all of the children that Mother saves, she happens to save the pregnant girl that's been raped. And then of all of the thousands of people that died on the ship, and there's only like 30 survivors, the rapist is one of the survivors. And you're like, oh God. And then he happens to also survive her blast. Remember when they make him fodder, and he
Oh yeah.
survives that. And then they happen to run into each other. So you have this reunion of rapist and rapee, and victim, and then he provides this function. Like he happens to be this like blood bank that like is able to nourish this baby, And at the whole time I was just like, oh, this is so contrived. There's no reason that this guy should be alive, like none. And then at the end you're like, okay, well, I guess Ford planned it all. So, like I guess because it's like, why did Caleb and Marcus like save the guy? And like when the Mithrists were ready to execute him, they're like, well, this guy's a rapist, so let's kill him. And Caleb's like, nah, let's keep him alive, And you're like, okay, let's keep him alive. And then he happens to survive the blast and the crash in the first place. And you're like, okay, well, the snake, it was all for the snake. So the snake planned it all, I guess. But it seemed really dumb to me. Very, very contrived.
And not to mention their plan to capture Mother while she's using the machine. So apparently she has another power where she can levitate and make things like explode from the ground. Huh?
Yeah, her power. So this is like anything. Like this is a big problem in fiction. When you make somebody when you OP somebody, you give somebody godlike powers, you have to come up with an excuse that they can't use those powers, right? Like that's always the case, right? Because, it's like with Maeve in Westworld, right? Like she has infinite powers. Oh, but, I guess she's malfunctioning today, so she can't just kill everybody. Oh, okay. Like, so the same thing was happening with Mother, right? She has infinite powers, and then they have to keep coming up with reasons why she's not going to be using those infinite powers. Oh, her eyes are stolen. Okay. She didn't have her eyes in that day. Okay. And
Oh
I guess,
my
I mean,
God.
I guess, Marcus Caleb has her eyes now. So, I guess she was stripped of all of her powers when Marcus like beat her up, and then and then did not kill her because Sol told him not to, because the plot demanded her to stay alive, even though like she should just freaking die.
Well, the Sol did tell, if it is Sol did tell Marcus to, that's his name, Mark, still calling him Ragnar. Sol did tell Ragnar to keep her alive and he'll be the king of this world. And he believes it. And it
Yeah.
goes as far as to send him a vision where he's fighting himself.
Yeah, yeah, that was. I mean, I will say, even though I think like fighting oneself is pretty trite at this point, Superman 3 kind of thing. Like, oh,
Hmm.
you're fighting yourself, okay, or you're fighting a bizarro version of yourself, which is in comic books. Like, how many times has that happened? Like, how many times is there a bizarro version of Spider-Man, whether it be Venom or whether it be La Tarantula, or whether it be a mutated Spider-Man version of himself, like during the Infinity War. Like there's so many like times where like you're fighting an evil version of yourself. But I will say that the fight itself was pretty cool because they were like doing the exact same moves and kept hitting each other because like they had to do the exact same moves. I thought that was kind of neat. It was choreographed very well.
So before we end this podcast episode, whatever this is, favorite character, Father. I love Father.
Oh, great. Everybody loves Father. Father is definitely my favorite character.
Father's awesome. Mother, I like I said, I think there have been better portrayals of androids. David from Prometheus and Alien Covenant Michael Fassbender as David did an amazing job. It's almost as though these two forget that they're androids and they try to act like androids, but they're really not, and that kept throwing me off a bit. A lot of the times they don't act like androids. They just act like humans who may not have emotions today and may have them tomorrow.
Right, like when Father gets jealous at the end, near the end of the series and things like that. They definitely are having clear emotions constantly.
It would make sense if they were cyborgs, part human, part robot, but they're not. They're apparently just androids. So, and making them cyborgs in hindsight would have been a better idea. That way you could explain the visions. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other characters besides Father. I kind of like, even though Hunter's an ass, I for some reason like Hunter. I don't understand what it is. I guess maybe his character is like consistent and like I can kind of understand where he's coming from. Like he's still a zealot, but he kind of likes Father because who wouldn't like Father? Mm-hmm. And so he's just kind of like doing what makes sense at the time. Even though he's an argumentative asshole, like I kind of like him. I like Lucius for some reason.
Lucius. For those of you who felt as though the character of Lucius, which was Ragnar's like buddy, the zealot guy, he played one of the main characters in season 3 of Narcos. Oh, okay. In case you wonder, for the audience, if he looked familiar. I actually kind of liked Campion for like the first couple episodes, and then I disliked Campion. He got annoying, and I like Paul, but then I hated Paul.
Yeah, you're supposed to definitely relate to them, and I definitely related to Campion and Paul in the beginning, and then both become nuts. Like Paul becomes a zealot, like ultra zealot, and then Campion like becomes like, I've got to protect Mother, and he stops being logical, like everybody else. I mean, I guess it makes much more sense for Campion to be attached to Mother than say, I want to say like, why is Holly or like Vita like into her? Like
besides Tempest and Hunter, the other kids are just kind of like glossed over.
Yeah, I mean Tempest, you're supposed to think, oh well, she was raped and therefore she now hates the Mithraic and is just gonna like side with Mother, and they give her and Mother a lot of screen time, so you can kind of maybe see Tempest being on Mother's side, and you can see Campion being on Mother's side, but there's no reason at all that Hunter, Holly, Vita, Paul, any of them would like Mother. Like, she murdered thousands of people. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
You're not going to let this go, are you? This whole murder thing? You're not going to let it go.
No, it's just really bad. It's just, like, that jump is just bad. I mean, the only thing you could be like, okay, like, they're all suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah. Okay, maybe. That's the only explanation, but that's not really how they portray it.
Preston still won't let Tyrion live down the fact that he killed his father and Shay.
No. There's no getting over it. So I mean, these are people that are like, oh, like Jaime's redemption story. It's like, Jaime cannot be redeemed. Like he can't be redeemed.
Stop it, Preston. Anyone can be redeemed.
You push a child out of a window and you have sex with your sister.
Come on. Who hasn't done that? Who hasn't done that? So before we wrap it up, the themes, once again, are pretty cool. You hit the nail on the head with that. The show's mysteries, they kind of answer one, not really, and then present you 4 more, which is really annoying, but I guess that's what hooks us in. Characters are all fucking insane and out of their mind, and I don't know if that's by design. Except for Father. Father is the wholesome one that is probably gonna die at the hands of the snake. I think that was kind of foreshadowed when Mother literally grabs him and throws him down on one of the snake skeleton's tooth.
Oh, I guess I like Mary too. I mean, there's no reason not to like Mary. I mean, Mary's the most relatable character, I suppose.
Yeah, she is. I guess she's the most normal one, kinda. But she also did have a hand in killing Paul's original mother, so.
Yeah, that's pretty shitty. That's really shitty.
And taking the woman's face to, escape the Earth. Everyone kind of sucks in this show. Everyone just kind of sucks.
It's true. It's true.
So the show, as much as we're annoyed by it and a lot of shit doesn't make any sense, I would still recommend it. But here's the thing.
Oh my God, I would. Yeah. No, absolutely. One, just from an imagination design, aspect, all of the sci-fi elements, they're so creative. Just seeing people, even in the idea of, the Martian, the movie about the guy surviving on Mars. There's so much of that. There's so much of that in it, about them surviving on another planet, and
it's much of the Martian for the first 3 episodes, and then it becomes, like I said, Event Horizon towards the very end, where it's a haunted planet type of thing, and there's a theory about that it may be an airborne virus that's infecting them. But once again, why are the androids themselves, who are not organic, why are they seeing these things as well? How did Mother get pregnant?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this snake thing?
How did Caleb develop a resistance to radiation?
Not Caleb, Campion.
Campion. How did Campion develop a resistance to radiation? Because that's totally not a thing. You can't get a resistance to radiation. But okay.
How did the atheists even get to that planet? Considering that apparently they weren't supposed to have that technology, but I guess now they do.
I don't know.
So much going on, and I hate the fact that I want to know what happens next, but I want to know.
I know. And there will be a season 2. There will be a season 2.
That was announced, but because of COVID, it might get pushed back.
Yeah.
So, everything else is being pushed back. I'm sure House of the Dragon, which was supposed to premiere in 2022, I think, is what they said. Either 2022 or 2021. Most likely 2022 at this point. They just cast their Viserys Targaryen, so we're definitely getting the Targaryen Civil War. That's going down. So everything's getting pushed back. But I'm glad HBO has this new show. We needed a kind of weird, horror-esque sci-fi show.
No, I mean, it's a show that definitely has major flaws, but at the same time, it's its strengths are so unique that I have to recommend it. It's just a show you need to see. It's just so different and cool, and there's so many great aspects to it. It's got a lot of weaknesses, but it's got so many good things about it that I have to recommend it.
And it's, once again, I have to repeat. Normally, I would advise people give it the 3-episode test, but with this show, you got to give it the 5 to 6 episode test. You really got to stick with it.
And at that point, you're practically near the end.
Pretty much. And I gotta commend HBO. They released. Maybe they were aware of how annoying the pacing was. They released the first week 3 episodes. The next week another 3, and then afterwards 2.
I think it was 3, 2, 2, 1, right?
I'm pretty sure it was 3. Hold on, let me check real quick. I'm pretty sure it was 3, 3. Let me check real quick. But I like this happy medium. It's not 1 episode a week. It's not the whole series.
Because the last episode was just 1, so there has to be another odd number. There has to only be 1 other odd number. So it had to be 3, 2, 2, 2, 1.
No, you were correct. I'm sorry, you were correct. It was 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. Yeah, like I said, 10 episodes. Ooh. Fuck this show. It really bothers me. This fucking show bothers me, but you gotta watch it. And I would say it's the most interesting sci-fi show so far. Even better than Westworld, I would argue.
Definitely better than Westworld season 2 and 3.
Definitely better than Westworld season 2 and 3, but not for the reasons you think. Not because it has a better story or better actors, but because the mysteries really enthrall you and you just want to know what the fuck is happening. If the showrunner just emailed me right now and said, "Here's the plot line. This is what's happening," I will never watch the show ever again. If I got an email from the showrunner saying, "Hey, I saw your podcast. Here's what's going on. Here's what's really
This is the
happening.
whole thing, yeah.
Like if
spoil it for you.
If George R.R. Martin emailed me with like the whole plotline, the Winds and Dream of Spring, I'm still reading the books. But if this motherfucker came to me and he's like, "Here's what's going on with the snake. Here's why she got pregnant," I'm not watching season 2 or anything else ever. Like, fuck that show. So, on that note, definitely check out Raised by Wolves on HBO Max. Preston's recommending it. I'll recommend it begrudgingly, under protest. I recommend it under protest.
This is probably chaos. I know there's people that have listened to the entire podcast and like do not like know what the fuck we're talking about.
There's an android that got pregnant. There's a snake. What? There's a
We
snake.
didn't even talk.
It's a
We didn't even
giant
talk
snake.
about that medical android episode, which was like crazy.
That fucking android was so creepy. That medical. Why did they even make it like that?
That was fucking. They needed some exposition. They needed someone for her to talk to.
Fucking snake.
So
I still can't get over the fact that the lander went through the core of the planet and out the other end into like the tropic. Oh my god, it's so stupid.
Oh god, it was. Yeah, it was definitely a jump the shark moment at the end. Yeah.
Jump the shark. It was the season finale, like the last 2 minutes of the episode. Jump the shark. It took Game of Thrones like several seasons. This fucking thing just the season finale.
Well, it's just so funny because it's so slow. The show is so slow, and then in the last 5 minutes, like more happens than the entire other 10 episodes.
Jesus Christ!
like Father discovers the whole mystery of the planet, and then the baby's born, and you find out what's at the bottom of the pits. And they get to the tropical zone. Like, it all happens in like a minute.
He's not. Please, if anything, just watch like the first and then the last episode. You'll understand what we're talking about. Fuck this show, bro. Holy shit.
Oh god, it's okay. All right,
Preston. Preston, let's wrap this up before we die here. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, leave your thoughts down below. Definitely check out the show. It really is worth your time, kinda, not really. I'm not gonna go into it anymore. Please follow Preston on Twitter. We might actually do more discussion on this in the future, because I'm sure there will be like more about this as well. It's Preston Jacobs, Sweet Robin 9000, right? That's your handle on Twitter?
Yeah.
And also follow Preston on Facebook as well to get more updates on if we do decide to cover more creepy sci-fi shows. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.